My presentation is in 3 parts. I'm going to start by telling you a bit about my school and our journey with character education. Then I'm going to talk to you about our philosophy behind character and its links to behaviour and intrinsic motivation. And then finally, I'm going to end with practical things that we do in school, sort of takeaways that you can steal. In United Learning, and I don't know if you've heard of us, we're a large MAT in the UK, and our CEO, Sir John Coles, has a catchphrase which is "steal with pride." And he always says that we need to go and visit each other and see each other's schools and reach out to each other and steal from each other with pride. And so anything you want, you can steal it from us. You can come and see us, you can email, because we are a regional hub, but also, you know, we all came into this profession to change the lives of young people, and that doesn't happen when you operate as a silo. That happens in partnership and in community. So anything you want, you can have. So this is our school, Walthamstow Academy. We're a large secondary school in East London, in the London Borough of Waltham Forest. We've got just over 1,000 children on roll, year 7 to year 13. We've got a growing, thriving sixth form. In 2023, our P8 was 0.47, which we're really proud of. That puts us at 3rd in Waltham Forest. And actually something we are proud of is we're the only mixed gender school in the borough that got a positive P8 score. The borough's a really interesting borough to work in. It's got areas of great privilege, but also areas of great disadvantage. And our school pulls from both of those demographics. We are also a school of character and a regional hub for the Jubilee Centre. And our character work began really in 2018 when we realised that we had a bit of a problem with behaviour actually, and we had to face it head on. We had teach firsters crying on a Friday afternoon. We had children charging around the corridors, and it wasn't a place that we were recognising anymore in terms of what our mission and our vision and values were. And so we started our character journey in 2018 by rewriting our behaviour policy and thinking what actually makes good behaviour in young people. It isn't punishment, it isn't stringent rules that have got no get out, it's about character. And so I'll talk to you a bit more about that in a moment, but we wrote a behaviour policy that was essentially really focused on the development of the character of our young people. And we launched it, it went quite well. And then our regional director at the time, a lady called Ollie Tomlinson, came in to see the work, and she said, right, that's great, but now your next step is education with character. And she sent me off to visit one of our sister schools, which is Northampton Academy. If any of you get the opportunity to visit Northampton Academy, they are a Kite Mark Plus school, I believe. It's an absolutely fantastic secondary school in Northampton. They're top of their borough for P8, they're amazing. And we went and had the privilege to spend the day with the then Vice Principal, Chris Klein, and he told us all about the amazing Kite Mark and the character taught, sought and caught framework that I then basically stole with pride, brought back to Walthamstow Academy, and a year later we had the Kite Mark. So again, that's a real testament to the power of visiting other schools. I think sometimes the danger of education with character and character programmes are that it can feel quite intangible. You know what you want, like you know what you want by the end of the process. You want polite, respectful, well-mannered young people who display your school's values and go out into the community as responsible citizens, excellent alumni. And sometimes when you're given character education, whether SLT or MLT is your remit, it can feel quite intangible, and it can also sometimes feel like you're tinkering around the edges. Oh, I'll put on a trip. I'll put on some extracurricular. Oh, I'll speak to the work-related learning coordinator about some careers. And actually, one of the main takeaways I'd like you to take away from this workshop today is that it's that stick of rock, that golden thread analogy is really powerful. Character has to be interwoven into everything you do in school, and it has to start from the top. Your head has to be on board, your SLT have to be on board, your governing body have to be on board, and it can't be something where you tinker around the edges. It's got to start at policy, and it's got to start at vision and values. So this is a quote that I love, and I come back to it in staff training at the start of every year. Sir John Coles, when he launched the United Learning Framework for Excellence, one of the pillars of the Framework for Excellence is education with character, and he introduced us all to this quote and put it as the top quote, and what he wants for all of his schools in United Learning. So intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. And we revisit this as a staff every single September, because we are not, we're not an exam factory. We want our children to get really good results, make really good progress, but that's all for nothing if they don't leave the school as respectful and responsible adults. And so before I tell you about my school's values, I want you to have a think about your schools and your contexts. So I've got 3 questions for you. Number 1, what are your school's values? Number 2, does every member of staff in your school know your values? So if I came and visited your school today and asked random members of staff, a member of SLT, a member of the maybe the lunchtime supervision staff, a cleaner, a site supervisor, a teacher, would they be able to tell me the school's values? And also, how long would it take a visitor to your school to know what your school values are? When I walk into that school completely fresh, how long would it take me to work out what your values are? So take 2 minutes to have that conversation, and I'll pull you back together. Off you go. So I tried to tune into some of the conversations at the front, and I heard we've got 3 values, lots of people immediately saying what their values are. I even heard the phrase, bam, 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 these are our 3 values, which is great. But the key question is, are you confident that your whole staff know what your values are, and do they live your values? And also, how long does it take a visitor to work out what your values are? So we make sure when you walk into our school, the main sort of entrance to our school has this big open space that we call the Agora. And at the top of the Agora are our 3 values, which are ambition, determination, and respect. Now, these are 3 of the 6 United Learning values, which are ambition, confidence, creativity, respect, enthusiasm, and determination. We've cherry-picked our favourite 3, which are up there: ambition, determination, and respect. And it is interwoven into every part of our school life, every school policy, the behaviour policy, the rewards policy, inset days, PSHE, so that this becomes a common part of our language. And when we speak to children about things they've done well and things they've done, mistakes they might have made, everything we talk about comes back to the values, and crucially comes back to this, the character pyramid. Now, this is something that is the heart of our character programme. This was inspired, I read Battle Hymn of the Tiger Teachers by Catherine Birbal Singh many years ago, and this inspired, this was from her book, and we stole it with pride and made it our own. And we tell the children every year at the start of the year, we have an induction programme, a character induction programme, and we tell the children that your aim in your 5 or 7 years with us is to get to the top of that pyramid. What motivates you? What spurs you to act? And so I can think right now of 3 children that I dealt with yesterday who are still sitting at the bottom of that pyramid. They are behaving because they want to avoid detentions. The PLR is the protected learning room where we remove children who have misbehaved in class, and we call it the protected learning room. Again, we set a lot of store in language. So I know some schools call it removal or isolation. We try and link it to character. It's about protecting the learning. We're protecting the learning of the majority, but we're also protecting the learning of the individual, because they go into that room and they access online work until they're ready to return to their lessons and they've reflected on the mistakes they've made and how they're going to avoid them in future. And you can see we've got a little person at the side climbing that pyramid, and the pyramid moves from extrinsic motivation to intrinsic motivation to actual true character. So I want to avoid detentions, the PLR, and getting in trouble. The next step up is the extrinsic desire for reward. I want to get rewards and appear to be doing the right thing. The next step up is the praise from teachers. I want to build trust and impress my teachers. Next up, starting to go into intrinsic motivation. Rather than external factors motivating the development of character and good behaviour, I want to have a great future. I want to get good GCSEs, good A-level results, I want to have a good career. But then finally, what all of the children at Walthamstow Academy are aiming for is they behave the way they behave because it's who they are. And that we have many children in the school who don't need the behaviour policy. They don't really need the rewards policy because their actions are guided by their values and their character. And that is our goal. And I have to say, one of the proudest parts of our school is our wonderful sixth form, many of whom, our external applications are building every year, but the majority of them are homegrown. We've had them since year 7, and they are absolute role models for our younger children, and particularly for our year 7s coming in, of this is who you can be in 6 or 7 years' time. This is the journey that you're on. And we always get our head student to speak at year 6 open evening and at year 7 parents events, because really we think that our oldest children are the best advert for parents. Like, your children are in safe hands because this is what they're going to end up like. This is the end result. And so this character pyramid is everywhere. It's in our poster in every classroom. It's the front page of our behaviour policy, front page of our rewards policy. It's in our character journals. At the start of every half term, we have New Leaf Week where we reflect on the character pyramid and where children are. They cannot get away from the character pyramid. In fact, when we did a round robin to last year's year 11 of their intentions as to whether they would stay in sixth form, one student said, "No, I won't be staying." And when asked why, he said, "I just can't reflect on my character anymore, miss." He did then come to our sixth form, but I thought that was quite funny that, we talk about it so much, he was quite tired of it. We use Rose and Shine's principles of instruction, which, that's our kind of framework. And the reason I tell you that is because everything we do at the school, we try to make the implicit explicit. And a lot of Rose and Shine is about, explicit direct instruction, teaching from the front, filling children full of knowledge. And I have to recommend this book to you. This book started us on that kind of character and behaviour journey. It's called With All Due Respect by Ronald Morris. It's hard to buy in print. If you want to buy it in print, you have to get it on eBay these days, but you can buy it on Kindle quite easily. And when I read this book, it started our character journey and the journey towards the character pyramid and what we've done with the school. And there are 3 core quotes there. Children don't develop positive behaviour by accident. It is the result of great discipline. Every new initiative adds to the workload of school staff, but effective discipline is an investment. And classroom management can be done alone, but school discipline can be achieved as a staff team. And sometimes people hear the word discipline and shy away from it because it sounds quite Victorian, it sounds quite Dickensian. But we took discipline to mean a disciplined school, children who are led by their own character, children who behave the way they behave because it's who they are. And so we launched our behaviour policy with character at the heart. And I'll go to this slide now, actually. Oh, look, my pie chart's gone mad. So we did a lot of research into other school behaviour policies, and we found that our own policy at the time and a lot of other policies were entirely focused on sanction. When this happens, when X happens, Y happens. When children do this, this is the punishment. And what this book, With All Due Respect, taught us, and we visited another sister school of ours, Paddington Academy in West London. What we saw from some of the best schools and the reading that we were doing is that actually you have to teach character, you have to teach behaviour. You can't just expect children to behave by accident and be good people, and you can't sanction children into being good people. It has to be explicitly taught. And so our behaviour policy, our behaviour and character policy, is made up of 3 core components. 45% is about teaching good character. So actually, the main driver of our behaviour policy is character. How do we develop character in our young people? How do we develop them to be their best selves? Another 45% is about training good habits. And I'll give you some examples. So teaching good character, skills, attitudes, knowledge, responsibility, respect. Another 45% is training good habits. So rules, limits, authority, structure. We try to put in place as many routines as possible in school so that the opportunity to misbehave doesn't even occur to our children. So we tell the children, it's a bit like when you learn to drive. When you see a red light, a good driver doesn't think, shall I stop? Because it is ingrained into us that when you see a red light, you stop, and that stops accidents, and it stops children being killed in the streets, and it keeps the traffic flowing. And so we have lots and lots of routines in school. We have line up at the start of the day and at the end of break and at the end of lunch. So every time our children move from unstructured time back into the building, we have line up and they get back into the building as quickly as possible. We have start of lesson routines, end of lesson routines, assembly routines that everyone in school uses. Because the danger of not having routines is that if you've got 75 teachers, that's 75 different routines. And year 7 come in from having one primary school teacher who's got one set of routines and they feel really safe, to maybe 14 teachers with 14 sets of rules, 14 sets of routines. And that's really hard for an 11-year-old to get their head round. So we've just centralised it. These are our school routines. This is how we're going to train good habits in our young people. And then the final 10% of our policy is what for some schools is the whole of their policy, which is managing independent poor choices. So that's where warnings, the protected learning room and centralised attention comes in. And I think what's really powerful about our policy, about our character and behaviour policy, is, as I've said, what drives it is the development of character, and it is the explicit teaching of character. Character doesn't happen by accident. Character happens as an explicit act by the school staff and by strategies and systems that we put in place to develop the character of young people. So let me just do a little time check. Good. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes now. I've kind of given you a lot of our philosophy behind character. The next session, I'm going to move into specific strategies and things you might want to steal and things that we find work really well. But what's in your school behaviour policy, and how is it linked to the development of student character? What do you do in your school when children make poor choices? How do you bring them out of it? How do you teach character? Where does character even sit anywhere near your behaviour policy? If so, if yes, why? If not, why not? Take 2 minutes, have a chat. One of the key bits of advice I could give any school with character is to over-communicate your core messages. And there is nothing more powerful than a quote on a wall or a poster in a classroom. And one of our core sort of character and behaviour messages is this promise we make to our children. You deserve disruption-free learning every minute of every lesson. And that's our old DT teacher, Sean Webb, who thought it would be fine to volunteer to have a photo taken of him, and then was quite shocked to find his face on every single classroom in school, but I think secretly loved it. And this is the promise we make to our children. This is the promise we make to our parents, that there will be disruption-free learning at Walthamstow Academy, and not because we are strict, but we're warm strict. We're strict with care, we're strict with love, we're strict in order to develop character and to make sure children can become the best version of themselves. Every classroom in our school has got specific posters that link character with behaviour. So I've got some examples for you. So being lesson ready. It's really easy to be cross with children when they forget their books or they're late, but you have to teach children how to be lesson ready. You have to make it really clear what they need to do and be to be lesson ready. And so we have this sort of 5 steps that children can take to be lesson ready. There's one example. Another example are noise levels, which, I'm sure many people in the room have used them, heard of them before. But, if you expect children to be silent, you have to say it. If you want children to work in partners, you have to explain that you should be working at whisper voice. I shouldn't hear any individual conversations. I shouldn't hear any shouting out. We really try to make ways of being explicit at the school for our children, so that we are teaching character, we are teaching positive behaviour, not just trying to catch them out and punishing them when things go wrong. And that bit in red at the bottom is something we revisit every single September inset. Character is taught through every single interaction we have with young people. It is taught through positive practice, not punishment. Every conversation we have with a young person. I don't know what contexts your school are in. Waltham Forest is quite disadvantaged. We make our staff aware you might be the first adult that a child speaks to today. You might be the first adult who is kind to that child today. And so you need to take that responsibility really seriously. It's a grave responsibility, and we owe it to our children to show them what respectful, determined, ambitious adults look like, and we can be those role models along with their parents and their families for who they can become when they're older. A final example for you is we actually have posters about how to be respectful, because often you say, speak to me with respect. Stand up straight when I'm talking to you. You're being disrespectful. But for some children, they don't really know what that means. And so we try to codify respect wherever possible. We try to break these values down. Ambition, determination, and respect. What does it actually mean? And what can you as a child do to climb that character pyramid and become the best version of yourself? So this is another another example of posters that are in every single room. We've got 7 posters in total. If you want them, you can have them. Just drop me an email and I'll send them to you. What we're doing this year, we're doing a bit of a revisit to respect. And we're having an explicit focus this year on manners and politeness. So, if you see a visitor in school, good morning, miss, good morning, sir, welcome to our school, how are you today? There's another school in our group called the Elms, which is in Lambeth, and I think they've been doing this work because I recently went to their school on an NPQH day, actually, and I was taken round by a child who was very lovely, but every room I went into on walkabout, children would say, good morning, miss, how are you? Welcome to our school. And it was really endearing and warm. It was a really positive culture. It was a real testament to the leadership of character at the Elms in Lambeth. And so some strategies that we use in school that you might do or you might find really useful to steal. So the first thing we do is, as I said, we try to really break down these values for children. We know what these words mean, but actually ambition might mean something different between me and you, between me and you. So we really try to define and codify and make explicit what these values are and how you can live them. And one of the ways we do that is that every half term, the first week of every half term is called New Leaf Week. And, children across the course of a half term, you get, if you get what I suppose Harry Potter would call merits, we call praise points. You get a P1, a P2, a P3, and points are attached to that. Every time you get them, you get positive points on ARBA, which is our school management information system. If you get detentions or warnings, or if you get sent to the PLR, you get negative points. And over the course of a half term, those positive and negatives are put together and you are given a respect score. Because if you go around just being the best version of yourself and picking up P1s and P2s, you're going to have a really positive overall respect score. But if you're going around picking up loads of negatives, you're going to be in the minus. And that's where it's a cause for concern for us. That's where we're going to worry about your character and the development of your character and what we need to put in place to help you. We also track engagement in lessons through determination scores. And we also give children an ambition score when they sit assessment weeks or tests or mock exams. And so every half term we have New Leaf Week, which is introduced by heads of year in assembly. And we tell the children, welcome back. We are so happy to see you. Remember, your respect score is set to 0. So, because it's really easy for children who've got stuck in a rut and are in negative scores to come back after a holiday and think, well, what's the point? I'll never get a positive score. I had such a bad start. Things were going wrong for me. I give up. And so we set the respect score to 0 for those children to give them a fresh start and to teach them about determination and ambition and the power of turning over a new leaf. But also you have children who in the first half term might have racked up loads of positive points and think, well, I don't need to bother this half term. I'm streets ahead of everyone else in my year group. And so we also reset for those children so that they're constantly striving, they're constantly determined to get to the top of the rank order and be the best version of themselves. We publish a New Leaf report to our children. So every child gets a report where they get told their attendance, their punctuality, and depending on what we've done over the course of the last half term, they get a respect, an ambition, and a determination score. I've got a copy with me today and I can show you. We sort of have done away with student planners because since the pandemic, all of our homework's on Google Classroom, and to make a child write their homework down in pen is very 90s these days, isn't it? And so because all of homework's on Google Classroom, the student planner was starting to become really redundant. But we didn't want to get rid of it because it's a really powerful tool. It's where your timetable is, it's where the school rules are, it's information for parents. So when we went for the kite mark, we turned our student planner into a character journal. And the whole thrust of that student planner is not about homework, it's about how to develop your character. So the front of the character journal is all about our school and ambition, determination and respect. And we've created reflection pages for each half term for New Leaf Week. What are you proud of? What have you achieved? How did you live our values last half term? What are your goals for this half term? How are you going to visualise success at the end of this half term? But also we create an ambition, determination and respect section where they can record half-term by half-term respect scores, ambition scores, determination scores, and they can track their own progress over the course of the academic year. And what we're trying to do there also long-term is teaching children the power of reflection and evaluation, but also visualisation. Because the more I work with young people, the more I find that children who get stuck in a rut and can't seem to turn over that new leaf don't really have a vision for the future for themselves. They're sort of living day to day, and giving them, training children in the power of thinking about the future, visualisation, goal setting is a really powerful intrinsic motivator in terms of building character and in terms of encouraging children to be their best selves. So they all get their New Leaf Week report, they have an assembly, and then they have a bespoke form time with their tutor where they use their character journal to record all their scores, reflect and set targets for the new half term. And again, there's an example of we've codified determination, where we've told children, we've given 4 levels. So my determination is exceptional, level 2 is good, level 3 requires improvement, and level 4 is unacceptable. And we've actually given examples of what children can do. They can RAG rate these criteria. And I've got that, again, anything you see, if you want the full document, drop me an email and I'll send it to you. But that's been really powerful in making our values part of our school life, because every half term, everyone in the building for the first week of term, all we talk about is values. And we talk about turning over a new leaf, and we also talk about how you can climb that pyramid. Not just be more ambitious, be more determined, but actually, look, this is what it looks like on paper. Where do you think you are? And I know that when we went for the kite mark, what I love about the Jubilee Centre and the kite mark in particular is it literally gives you a framework. You sit there with a highlighter, you reflect on your school, and you make the intangible tangible. And that's what we try to do. We try to emulate that for our children. Values can feel intangible. Let's make it really tangible for you, and you can set targets for yourself. So, we also try to make personal development as public as possible through embedding the character pyramid into school life. So every single behaviour you might exhibit that is a mistake or reward you might get is linked to values. So my children actually go to my school. Interestingly, all of SLT's children go to our school. We've seen a real uptick since we got the kite mark. We've seen a massive improvement in exam results. We have also seen our school's become so popular with staff that we've had to put staff into our admissions criteria, because I think staff really buy into our character programme and in what we're doing with young people. So when my son sadly gets a detention for not doing his homework, I will get a text message from the school that says, your son has shown a lack of ambition. He hasn't completed his homework. And so every single detention code is linked to a value that they haven't shown. But equally, if my son does an excellent piece of homework, congratulations, your son has got a P1, excellent ambition homework. And so we're constantly putting the values in the face of our school community as well. We live and breathe the values, and we over-communicate them. The power of over-communication can't be understated. We also are a big fan of rank order. And we rank order everything we can lay our hands on, really, and we share it with the children. So every 2 weeks, we release the year group rank orders for respect scores, and they go on our central year boards, display boards, so that children can see where they are in comparison to their peers. Because if you've got a respect score of 50 by the 5th of November, that is pretty meaningless unless you know where you are compared to your peers and what your character and behaviour is like in comparison with your year group. So every 2 weeks we rank order our respect scores and we share them with the children. We put them on the display boards, and it's up to the children to go and seek them out for themselves. For those children at the very bottom, heads of year will have a conversation, a private conversation, say, look, are you aware? What are we going to do? What strategies are we going to put in place? Each half term as well, at the start of half term, we take the top 5 respect scores in each year, the top 5 ambition scores. And so the way we do ambition, we do it 2 ways. We rank order based on hard attainment, so who's got the best results, but then also we rank order on progress. who's made the most progress. And those two lists are often quite different. And when we collect data about determination, we rank order determination, and we give out badges in New Leaf Week, and we celebrate those children. So the top 5 scorers get a little ambition, determination or respect badge, which they wear on their lapel. Our kids are obsessed with putting badges on their lapels. They love it. They love nothing more than a form captain or a library ambassador or a sports ambassador. But again, it's another really easy way of promoting the school's values, because you literally have children walking around the building with the school values proudly displayed on their blazer because they have done so well. We also, in every single corridor and all around the sixth form, we spent time with staff finding inspirational quotes linked to ambition, determination and respect and their subject areas, because again, we want children, even when you're walking around the corridors, we want the values to be in your face and we want you to feel inspired. And so we went to staff at the start of the kite mark process actually and said, right, business department, you've got 2 walls. English department, you've actually got 6 walls above the lockers. And we told them how many spaces they had. And we said, can you please suggest some quotes from influential people in your subject area, or influential people that you guys just like and appreciate and admire, or maybe authors that the children will study, or historical figures that they will study. Have they said anything to do with ambition, determination and respect? Make those suggestions to us. And then we pulled them all together, cherry-picked the best ones, and now our school is not just covered in the words ambition, determination and respect, but in every single corridor and in our sixth form conference room and our sixth form common room, all around the walls are inspirational quotes by public figures and historical figures to try and emphasise to our children that every minute of every day is an opportunity to live our values. And here are some inspirational people who have lived values before us and who've got some wisdom to share. Environment and display is really, really important. We did a huge piece of work when we started the kite mark. We hired a professional photographer to come in and take, again, a subject-based photography of our children being the best version of themselves. So, taking part in a drama performance, going out to PE, reading in English, studying in the computer labs. And then we blew up those pictures, huge, massive pictures, because we had a bit of a problem in stairwells years ago where they were sort of like dead spaces and children sometimes saw an opportunity for a bit of rowdiness, and they were really just quite plain, uninspiring spaces. So we thought, let's make the stairwells and these kind of dead zones around the school as inspiring as possible so that children don't drop back into, oh, wicked, no one's watching us, let's mess about. But instead, that kind of like a sponge, like absorbing our values and seeing inspirational pictures of their peers and wanting to live up to them. And so we put those all around the school. And weirdly, we didn't expect this to be an outcome, but when we did that, litter decreased, which wasn't one of our intended outcomes. But I wonder if, because the children could see that we were investing so much in their school and their environment, they didn't want to litter anymore. It was a really odd, unexpected, I don't know if it's correlation or causation, but we've really noticed the children taking more pride in their environment as a result of us actively, constantly trying to improve it for them and make the values explicit. I've talked to you about the character journals and I've brought one with me today. And if you want one, I can post one to you or I can email bits of it to you. But that's been really powerful for all of our school community because they literally carry character in their bag. They carry a log of their character in their bag that they can refer to and that they explicitly have to refer to each half term. And I've talked to you about New Leaf Weeks. Finally, there's an example picture. I've got one in my bag for you if you'd like to have a look. And then finally, I want to talk to you about the sort of teaching, because I've talked a lot about developing, rank orders and character journals and tutor time. I cannot understate the importance of PSHE. I don't know how your schools do it. We run PSHE through tutor time. And we write I write our PSHE programme. So we don't buy PSHE in. I write it all from scratch based on the RSC curriculum and fundamental British values, and also what our school needs at that moment in time. So when we look at our safeguarding data, or we look at our behaviour data, or we look at what's going on in the local area, we might and also like national events. So like next week we've got Remembrance Week, but we're also celebrating Diwali on Friday. So, you know, you look at what's going on nationally and internationally as well. And that morning tutor time has been an absolute game changer for us in terms of developing character, because we centralise all of the resources. And every week, a week in advance, I send out the assembly guidance to heads of year, and I send out, this is what you're doing in form time each day. So there is, form tutors like it, because the danger of form time is that it's not a lesson, and for us it's the start of the day. And sometimes a tired teacher with a 5-period day might think, going to get through this with the kid, do some silent reading, you do some revision year 11 while I get on with this. It's a really easy, I remember when I was a teacher on 5 periods a day, that would be potentially an opportunity to do that. And so we centralise all of the planning to reduce workload of our staff. But then also every single PSHE resource is explicitly linked to character. So we're learning about consent. How does that link to who you are in the character pyramid? We're learning about drugs and alcohol. How does that link to the character pyramid and who you are? We're learning about healthy eating. How does that link to the character pyramid and how you're developing into who you want to be? And I think the fact that it's written bespoke for our school means that we can constantly do quality assurance in terms of staff and student voice, what's working, what's not working. And then it's a constantly evolving and I hope improving curriculum that staff and students really invest in. We take student leadership really seriously because the student leaders are the advert for our younger students and students who aren't necessarily following our character pyramid. So we have a junior leadership team in year 13 made up of our head student and then a team of student leaders. Everyone's attached to a year group and they work with the head of year to develop the character of their year group. But then they also have bespoke responsibilities, maybe work-related learning, maybe parents' evenings and events, so that they get experience for their UCAS statement or their degree apprenticeship application, but also they are constantly exposed to our children, our younger children, because sixth formers to a little year 7, the sixth formers are just adults wandering around the building, some of whom are 6 foot tall and feel really remote and removed. So we try to bring our sixth form into the lives of our younger children as much as possible through leadership. We have 5 student voice weeks a year. We take student voice really seriously because, again, it's about developing character of our young people, but also telling our young people you have a voice and we believe in you and we trust you and we know that you are people who are invested in your own character education and want the best for yourselves and our school. And we do it this week, actually, is Student Voice Week at our school. This morning it was Academy Council. We do Form Council that goes to Year Council that goes to Academy Council. And then the following week in Assembly, we do a You Said We Did, where we report back to the year group. So you said you wanted this, you said this was a concern, you said you want this improvement. This is what was brought to Academy Council. These are the actions we're taking, immediate actions and longer term actions. And I'm pleased to say when we started doing this really formulaically, the main complaints were about food in the canteen. Because that is a really important part of children's days. They had a lot to say about how boring the playground was and what the food they wanted improving. And now that we've kind of got those immediate short-term problems out of the way, they're starting to talk about homework and they're starting to talk about university visits and trips and access to seeing higher education in action, which is really lovely. And we also try to create ambassadors wherever we can. Sports ambassadors, environment ambassadors, events ambassadors. But something that I think has been a game changer for us with our ambassador programme is that children have to apply. So whereas previously, a few years ago, we might have just picked, you're in a rush, you've got an event, you need some volunteers, and you just pick 6 kids that you know are good. The problem is, if you've got a year group of 180, there might be loads of children in that year group who'd be brilliant at that role, but they're sort of unsung heroes of the year group. So we've really tried to create this culture of, if we have an opportunity for you, you can apply. Tell us about you, tell us about your character, tell us how you live our values. secretly and selfishly, getting those applications is one of the most beautiful parts of my job, where they then reflect back at you the character work that you've done. It's beautiful. And you can then cherry pick quotes and share them with the staff so that you're feeding it back and promoting it. But also it empowers our young people. And I think a big part of character education is actually about empowering teenagers and young people, letting them know that they have a voice, that they are important, that they are in charge of their own development. And this sort of stuff really helps. And two final things, let me just do a time check. Firstly, work-related learning. Extra and super curricular. So we talk about extracurricular with year 7, 8 and 9 and a bit with 10. We talk about super curricular with year 11, 12 and 13. So extracurricular are your clubs, your trips, your visits, your hobbies. Super curricular is what are you interested in terms of your subject, in terms of your future, and what opportunities are you going to seek and find? How are you going to push yourself? And we really tie this in with something we launched last year called the Ambitious Student. So we found that most of our children, and we're a state school in East London, so we send a few children to Oxford and Cambridge each year, and we'd like to send more. But we've sort of looked at the patterns and trends amongst our successful Oxbridge candidates, and they tend to be brilliant geeks. So they are brilliant, grade 9s, A's and A stars, but they're also lovingly complete geeks. They are obsessed with their subject area. They don't just come to school, do their homework, do their classwork, and off they trot. They live and breathe the subject that they are interested in. We had a student recently who wants to do a master's in mycology at some point, and she wanted this textbook on mushrooms, but couldn't afford it. It was 80 quid. So we'd done all these assemblies on the Ambitious Student, and she thought, well, why not? And she emailed this Professor Nick P. Money at the University of Miami and said, look, I just wondered if you know any London libraries that hold your textbook, because I'd like to read it and I'd love to be a mycologist. And he wrote back to her and said, I'm so impressed with you, I'm going to send you a free copy to your school. And so that kind of super curricular, that ambition, that drive to seek as many subject-related and future-related opportunities as possible is something we really try to engender in our older students. The future is in your hands. And also, sometimes, funnily enough, teenagers can be really humble and quite nervous to approach adults. Giving them that confidence to live their ambition and to live their determination and to seek their own independent opportunities is really powerful. And finally, that ties in obviously with work-related learning, where we have an offer for every single year group, and we tie it in. We tie work-related learning in with character at every opportunity. We're not just doing Careers Week because it's a Gatsby benchmark and we have to do it. We're doing Careers Week because who do you want to be? Who are you and who do you want to be when you're older? How are you going to realise your ambition? How are you going to be determined to achieve that ambition? And so that's a little bit about us and our character pyramid and how we try to live and breathe it. I'll go back. I won't go back to the beginning because I'll be flicking for ages, but hopefully you got my email address. If you'd like my phone number, I am better on WhatsApp. Please do come and grab it. Anything you've heard about today that you'd like, just drop me an email and I will send it to you. I'm really happy to share everything we do. And if you'd like to come and visit, let me know, because we're running excellence visits in March and in June. And so you're really welcome to come and see us in action. Thank you very much.